I've been joined by Juliet Galatly, the founder of Viva. So, Juliet, could you just tell us a bit more about your organisation?
Viva was founded in '94, and the aim of it is to save animal life, and we do that by changing people's eating habits. And one of the ways that we do that, change people's minds and hearts, is through exposing what really happens to animals before they're killed and when they're killed. And so, for example, we went into Bernard Matthews 3 Christmases in a row and showed how the turkeys, well, I went in myself actually, and you could literally hardly move between them. The space was so crammed up, and we saw dead and dying birds, a lot of suffering in there. And that, for example, went in the front page of one of the national newspapers, and it went out on national television news programmes. And so by doing things like that, you're exposing the reality of what that so-called Christmas celebration is, for example. And the turkey trade has plummeted by millions of birds, so lots and lots of lives are saved in this kind of way. Another example, good example, would be our duck investigations, because we were the first group to show that ducks are factory farmed at all. People had this image that they were shot on ponds or whatever. I don't suppose people thought about it, but every time you go into a Chinese restaurant, which huge amount of duck on the menu, as you know, and in the supermarkets, we showed that ducks actually have very little access to water just for drinking. Obviously, they can't clean themselves properly, so we filmed birds in a terrible state. And again, dead and dying birds by these huge so-called farms that own these places. And we also exposed the supermarkets, like Marks and Spencer's, who said they were more ethical, and showing what those so-called ethics are. And again, it had a huge effect. The number of ducks being killed in the UK has gone down each year as each campaign has rolled out. And so we continue with these campaigns. We do any animal you can think of that is eaten, basically. We will campaign to try and save those animals. And we filmed in slaughterhouses as well, which is obviously very gruesome. And it's very difficult to deal with and to get people to watch it because they know it's going to be gruesome. So it's very hard to get national television to take that kind of footage. But we still bang away and try and get people to change. And then we have, if you like, softer campaigns where we hold people's hand and help them change. So we started off the incredible Veggie Roadshows and we've gone around the UK, many different cities and towns, showing people how to be vegetarian and vegan. And that's what Viva does. We also campaign on the environment. So Viva is about environmental issues and animal issues. And the other organisation I run, which is in the same building here in Bristol, is the Vegetarian and Vegan Foundation, which is a charity. And we campaign on health issues, so we're nutrition and health. So through both organisations, we cover going vegan through every aspect you can think of.
So is it the treatment of animals, do you think, that's the main reason that people become vegan, or are there other sort of reasons as well?
It's interesting. We did a major survey a few years back, and it was more complicated than that. And we actually found different issues coming through for the same people. And what I found through many years now of experience of working on these issues is that when people change through health, they will open their minds to animal issues, but they need that little opening. It's almost like they need to accept that they can change first before they'll accept that they have been cruel. And that tends to be with adults. With the younger generation, we do a lot of work with teenagers. It's the opposite way around. They're not interested in health, as you can imagine. They're going to live forever. They're immortal. And it's very, very animal-based. Even now, with all the environmental issues, it's still animal-focused for younger people. So different things, I mean, that's a sweeping statement, but different things change different people, which is why I set up the Vegetarian and Vegan Foundation, because I felt there was a huge gap in that we were only campaigning on animals in the environment when there was a whole adult audience, especially middle-aged, that would come in through health issues, which they certainly have done, through things like diabetes. As you know, it's just out of control in the UK. Obesity, through heart disease, you know, so many people dying from it, cancers, and people are more and more accepting that conventional medicine can't do everything, and so they're looking for ways to help themselves, and one of the most obvious ways is through your own diet. And once they start to change, I can think of somebody I treated very, very recently, wasn't interested in the animal issues and went vegan, actually, to save their own heart, and then took on all the animal issues, interestingly, and now is a very proud vegan, telling everybody they should change because they save animals. So it's interesting, they came in through the health, but now it's animals that they're more concerned with.
I guess as a nutritional therapist, do you get a lot of people coming to you with this sort of the belief that actually you can't have a balanced diet if you're a vegan, that, you know, animal meat is a really good source of protein? I mean, how do you sort of educate people about, you know, the health benefits of being a vegan?
It's interesting. Most people accept, broadly speaking, that being vegetarian is healthy, and most people also accept, especially, that red meat is not. And interestingly, in the world of nutritional therapy, dairy is not seen as healthy either. So you've got this weird sort of scenario at the moment where things are moving on and progressing. So with nutritional therapists, they're anti-red meat largely and anti-dairy for health, but still promote fish very much so, and chicken sort of lesser. But it's still there. And broadly speaking, that's also the same in the public's mind, especially red meat is harmful. It causes, they link it with heart disease, diabetes, cancers, but they don't link other animal products with that. And so very much I see Viva and the VVF's job as showing that actually a vegan diet is definitely the healthiest for a human being. And my background, I'm going back a long way, was actually a zoologist. That was my degree. And I found it really interesting because it's one of the things I really looked at was our physiology. I was very interested in primates generally and where we fit in the world in terms of our physiology and our biology. And we are most definitely a vegan animal. And that is why, of course, if we go vegan, we have a less chance of suffering from so many diseases, not a more chance. And so that's one of my favourite talks is Wheat Eaters or Meat Eaters, because it challenges people's very, very, yes, you're right, innate perceptions, because you're brought up from being very small, eating so many different animal products, whether it be dairy, because you're going to get strong bones, strong teeth, or whether it be chicken, because somehow they've got in there that we need animal protein. And it's quite deep-seated, this. So I think one of our most important jobs is actually going back to what we are as a species and what we're geared up to cope with from a health perspective. Because on those talks, people go away so enlightened and they say it's one of the best talks they've ever heard. And I think that's just because it's challenging all those myths. And they're like little light bulbs going off left, right and centre with that talk. And also, I've had vegetarians who've been vegetarian, say for 2 years, say, are you sure it's really healthier for me? Because they're doing it for animals. So they've still got the doubts going on. So it's really, really important role that I think that we play in reassuring people that it's the best possible step that they can take for their health. So you're not just doing it because you're ill, because you want to reduce saturated fat. You're doing it for overall health, to give yourself more energy and zest and just make your life much happier, because it's very hard to live a full life if you feel under par all the time. It may not be really ill, but if you continue to eat a bad diet, you're just under par. You never perform at your best. It could be as simple as a grandparent wanting to play with their grandchildren, having the energy, or a parent for that matter. You know, it can be just simple things in life, having the energy to do things. And so we do that, again, through different means, but obviously the health campaigns would come more to the fore with that. It's showing people how animal products harm people, how they trigger diabetes, how they trigger being overweight, how they trigger different cancers, because animal protein especially is linked to all cancers actually, not just the ones related to our stomach and colon, etc. How it relates to heart disease, strokes, all these massive killer diseases. So we do loads and loads and loads of work on that, and at the same time the flip side is, why does a vegan diet help you? So we literally take people's hands and say, this is what vegan foods are doing for you. This is how they attack the disease. This is how they try and prevent all the bad things you do to yourself harming you. So there's two different things going on there, giving people the confidence to change.
So what are your hopes for today's event? What do you hope people will sort of, that are coming here that aren't vegans, will take from it?
Well, I know, I mean, when Viva was 10 years old, we're 16 years old this year, so on our 10th anniversary we set up the Incredible Veggie Roadshows, which are very much what today is based on. And so I know from 6 years of doing these shows on different cities, the reason that we've continued with them is that we've found the public are very ready for change, but what they need often is somebody to hold their hand and say, this is what to do. And I see this is what like today's Bristol event is about, which is fantastic, that local groups are taking on these events and taking veganism to the public. And as you know, you've continued with this event precisely because it's so popular. And you get so many people through the door. I don't know how many you're going to get today, but I imagine it's going to be very high. I mean, our last roadshow was in Brighton. We had 3,300 people through the door, which is the same as what we used to get for National London events. And that is how ready people are to change. They want to see the food. They want to be convinced that it's there, it's out there, that it tastes fine. They want the cookery demonstrations to see how to change themselves. They want all the information that's given out. I do nutritional therapy through the day. You get some people who've got more specific issues that they want help with. But there's all these different groups coming together in Bristol to show people that it is easy to change. Actually, today it really, really is in cities like this. You know, there's no excuse anymore, is there? And also, yeah, in the background you've got the issues going on, like the whys. But I think really these shows are more about how to change. They're not kind of about sort of saying this is what's going on so much. I think people that come through the doors already have an inkling about that. They're more about, you can do it, come on. It's inspiration, isn't it?
Definitely. Well, I hope everything goes well for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.